It began with a white Ford Bronco gliding down a California freeway, followed by a convoy of police cars and helicopters hovering above. Inside that vehicle sat one of America's most beloved sports heroes, O.J. Simpson. It wasn't a movie scene, though it looked like one. It was real. And that day, June 17, 1994, became one of the most unforgettable moments in American television history. O.J. Simpson was not just a football legend. He was a symbol of success, charisma, and the American dream. Born in San Francisco, he rose from poverty to become one of the most celebrated athletes in the National Football League. After retiring, he built a second career as an actor, sports commentator, and commercial icon. America adored him. He was charming, funny, and seemed untouchable, until the murder of his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her friend Ronald Goldman shattered that image forever. On the night of June 12, 1994, Nicole and Ronald were found brutally murdered outside her Brentwood home in Los Angeles. The crime scene was horrific. Blood everywhere, footprints leading away, and a trail of evidence pointing toward a man who once shared that home. Police soon turned their attention to O.J. Simpson. He had a history of domestic violence, and just 2 years earlier, Nicole had called 911 saying she feared for her life. The signs were there, but few ever imagined it could lead to this. 5 days later, when police expected Simpson to surrender voluntarily, he vanished. Hours later, the nation watched live as a white Ford Bronco, driven by his friend Al Cowlings, slowly rolled down the freeway. Inside, Simpson sat in the back seat, holding a gun to his head, reportedly threatening to kill himself. Millions watched the chase unfold in real time. Highways were lined with people waving signs and shouting encouragement. The NBA Finals were interrupted. Bars, restaurants, and homes across the country tuned in. It was as if America had stopped breathing, caught between disbelief and fascination. When the chase finally ended at Simpson's home, he was arrested and charged with 2 counts of murder. The trial that followed would last nearly a year and divide the nation like few events before it. The prosecution called it a clear-cut case. DNA evidence linked Simpson to the scene. His blood was found in his car and at his home. The defense, however, argued that the Los Angeles Police Department had mishandled evidence and that racial bias, especially from Detective Mark Furman, had contaminated the entire investigation. The phrase, "if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit," became a defining moment of courtroom drama after Simpson struggled to pull on a pair of leather gloves believed to have been worn by the killer. What should have been a straightforward criminal proceeding turned into a spectacle. A courtroom turned television stage, where every gesture, every tear, and every argument was broadcast live. The public couldn't look away. The media called it the trial of the century. It had everything: fame, violence, race, and the blurred lines between truth and entertainment. At the heart of the trial was not only a question of guilt, but a collision of two Americas. To some, O.J. Simpson was a murderer who escaped justice thanks to wealth and celebrity. To others, his acquittal was a symbolic victory in the shadow of decades of racial injustice and police brutality, especially following the Rodney King beating just 3 years earlier. The case exposed deep wounds in American society, wounds that had never truly healed. The jury's decision came on October 3, 1995. In a courtroom packed with reporters, the words "not guilty" rang out. Outside, reactions split the country in half. Some celebrated, cheering in the streets. Others wept in disbelief, certain that justice had been denied. Television screens captured both emotions side by side: joy and outrage, hope and despair. It was more than a verdict. It was a mirror reflecting how differently Americans saw their justice system. Beyond the courtroom, the case changed television forever. The Bronco chase and the trial's wall-to-wall coverage marked the birth of 24-hour news. Networks realized that crime, tragedy, and celebrity could drive ratings like never before. From that moment on, reality television and sensational trials became staples of American culture. The Simpson case didn't just dominate the news, and it redefined it. In the years that followed, O.J. Simpson's life spiraled further. Though acquitted in criminal court, He was later found liable for the wrongful deaths of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman in a 1997 civil trial. The victims' families were awarded $33.5 million in damages, though most of that money was never paid. Simpson continued to attract controversy, and in 2008 he was convicted of armed robbery and kidnapping in Las Vegas, an ironic twist that sent him to prison for nearly a decade. To many, that conviction felt like delayed justice. The story's legacy, however, goes far beyond one man. It reshaped how Americans viewed fame, privilege, and accountability. It raised painful questions about the power of race and image in determining guilt. Could the same evidence have led to a different outcome if the defendant were not a celebrity? Would public perception have been different without the cameras, the headlines, and the spectacle? Even today, decades later, the O.J. Simpson case remains a touchstone in American culture. For those who lived through it, memories are vivid. Teachers wheeling televisions into classrooms to watch the verdict, families gathering around the screen in silence, strangers debating in grocery stores and offices. It wasn't just news. It was an event that shaped a generation's understanding of justice, media, and truth. There are those who remember the smiling athlete leaping over luggage in television commercials. And there are those who remember the same man sitting in court, emotionless, while photos of his slain ex-wife were shown to the jury. The contrast between those two images continues to haunt public memory. It represents both the rise and fall of a national icon and a warning about how quickly admiration can turn into disillusionment. The ethical questions remain as powerful today as they were in 1995. What happens when justice becomes entertainment? When ratings matter more than reflection? When public opinion, fueled by television and now social media, shapes how we interpret evidence? The Simpson case did not only test the limits of the legal system, it tested the moral boundaries of a nation obsessed with spectacle. For the families of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman, the pain never truly faded. Their names are often overshadowed by the celebrity who was accused of killing them. Yet their loss and the questions their deaths left behind continue to resonate as symbols of the human cost beneath all the drama and noise. Behind the cameras, behind the headlines, 2 young lives were ended and 2 families still search for peace. Looking back, the O.J. Simpson case was more than a murder trial. It was a cultural earthquake, exposing racial divisions, transforming news media, and forcing America to confront uncomfortable truths about power, privilege, and perception. It remains a reminder that the truth can be drowned out by the loudest voices, and that justice, when televised, can become something else entirely. A show, a debate, a memory frozen in time. More than 30 years have passed since that white Bronco drove down the freeway, but the image remains burned into America's collective consciousness. It reminds us how one moment can change not only lives, but an entire nation's relationship with truth and justice. What do you think about this case? Was it a failure of justice or a reflection of deeper social wounds that have yet to heal? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to like and subscribe so we can uncover more stories together. This content is compiled and analyzed based on publicly available information and open discussions.